All good things must come to an end, of course. Well, in this case, I guess all extraordinary things must come to an end, as 9 consecutive league titles is certainly not an ordinary thing for any club. Mind you, in modern football, it certainly has become all the more common as the disparity between the top teams and the Hey! Enough of this, well, actually, fingers on the glasses guy kind of comments. That's for another video. But of course, after dominating for so long, coming to terms with your newfound mortality is always going to be difficult, and with the aspects of the squad aging out, and with new directions with managers like Sarri and Pirlo being explored, Juve supporters certainly had a new reality to live in. No longer the top dog, no longer second nor third, but under Allegri this season, they're moving back up the table. Welcome back to Rabona TV, to all of our subscribers. To any of you newbies, welcome to the channel. I'm Adrian, and it's great to see you. Today's going to be a fun one. When I think Juve, I think of my friend Giuseppe. And given that he is the official host of the club's live streams, and he recently hosted a Serie A show for Socios, and on top of all of that, he has his own fantastic channel, Just Juve. All of these things considered, I'm sure there's a few of you who think of him when you think of the Bianconeri. If not, and you are a supporter of Juve, you gotta check him out, so I've got you covered. All of his links are below. Show him some love for me. Anyways, guys, we had a great chat about what's gone right at Juve under Allegri recently, so let's get this video started, no? As mentioned in the intro, it's difficult for any club to go from manager to manager season upon season. And for both the players and the fans, it's difficult to accept that you aren't the best team in Italy anymore. Well, as things stand at least, you never know what will happen in the 14 matches that are yet to come. Juve sit 8 points behind leaders Inter, who also have a match in hand. But all of that is besides the point. When taking over the club, Allegri knew what he was getting himself. He knew this wasn't the side that had one hand on the Scudetto when the season began. And that's why in this video, we aren't jumping to any conclusions. While Juve are now moving in the right direction, we aren't placing any sort of expectations, let alone saying they're going to start bossing the league again. They may do that, just as they may go to Atalanta this weekend and lose. Who knows? But we're talking about progress here. And it was slow to come at first. Juve opened the season without a single win in their first 4 attempts, leaving them in 18th. From there, 4 consecutive wins brought them back into the top 10 by the time the 7th matchday had concluded. It wasn't perfect from then on, as losses against Sassuolo and Hellas Verona were sandwiched between good results, like drawing Inter and beating Fiorentina and Lazio. But as things stand now, since their last loss back on the 27th of November, Juve have the best form of any team in Serie A. Undefeated in 10 matches, 7 wins, 3 draws, 7 clean sheets in that stretch. Looking back, what was going wrong at the beginning of the season?
Actually, it has been said by Chiellini, by Bonucci, so also by Buffon, Allegri. If you can read between the lines, you understand. We had a shocking moment, and I was on your channel speaking about Cristiano Ronaldo, the benefits and the consequence of him leaving. You remember we did that video together, it was really a nice moment. Well, for Juventus, it was actually a really shocking moment. Why? Because for 3 seasons long, you had one of the best players in the world in your team. And you know, he is an attraction person, so it means that when he's on the field, you're always conscious or unconscious, you are trying to look for him. He's really your attractor of balls. From the moment that you lose him from one day to the other, because he didn't leave at the beginning of the transfer market session, he left after the first game in Serie A, where he started on the bench, he left from one day to another. It's true that Juventus had lost their identity. They had to renew themselves without Cristiano Ronaldo, and that was a shocking moment for them. So that was for me the first step where we started really bad in Serie A. And it's absolutely not because of Cristiano Ronaldo, but it makes sense. All the team that he left, like Real Madrid, Manchester United in the past, they have some moments of difficulties to adapt to the new way.
Yeah, you have to like reprogram the entire squad and their thinking and what to do once they have the ball in the attack.
That was step one. Then, of course, because I don't want to blame Cristiano Ronaldo on all of that, but we come from a really difficult moment. From Cristiano Ronaldo leaving, from the results that were not following. As you said, it took us 7 days to be in the top 10. But from the moment that you have that dramatic start in Serie A, it starts to be really difficult because every game that you are playing, it's in or out. And that's where the pressure is really high on a team like Juventus, because you go from a Serie A where you can lose in total, I don't know, 5-6 games in a season where you actually already used all these bonuses. So you can't fail anymore. And every room for creativity, every room for testing new players in new position, you just have to stop with it, because you have to win. No matter what, you have to win, and you have no chance for failures anymore. And that pressure is on the club, on the coach, but also on the players. They know with every missed passes, they know that it can be really a dramatic consequence for the team in terms of results. And playing like that, where you are not free in mind, it has consequences on the way you play as well. Sarri, that had a total different vision of football, he was replaced by a rookie, by a young player like Pirlo, that was more of a vet, that had another idea of football. He came into a team where he didn't know the players that well. He had the total opposite idea of football as Pirlo and Sarri, and he had to work again from the basics.
Under Sarri, the 4-3-3 was utilized. Under Pirlo, he started with a back three, then moved to a 4-4-2 as the season progressed. Back in the day, Allegri loved the 4-2-3-1, but this season he's had to tinker, naturally. When you walk into a club that has little direction or is lacking in a true identity on the pitch, then it takes time to figure out what exactly works for the personnel you have at your disposal. You said you were working on the basics, and I do know that Allegri was trying a few different things with formations, so why don't you walk me through that, sort of the progression of where he started and where Juve is now as far as their shape and the way that they approach the game?
One of the big words of Allegri is balance, and we had to find a balance in the team. Super important for Allegri. And where did it start? From the defense, defensive structure and solidity. Most of the time when you read his book, when you listen to him, when you start to know him, you know that for him it's super important that the four-man defense is or three-man defense, depending what year he coached, but whatever. The defensive line has really to be structured, solid, and they have to know what to do. So it's really a plan that they work out and that they have to respect. So what is the first thing that Allegri worked on was solidity in defense. And today, in the last 13 games, Juventus has 9 clean sheets on 13 games. So it started to work. But the problem was that if you look at the last game before the break, big game versus Milan, at that moment you have 0 shots on target, what is absolutely not okay for a team like Juventus that is targeting to enter that top 4. You can't forgive Juventus to have 0 shots on target versus Milan. Absolutely unacceptable. You said something really correct, Adrian. You said that Allegri was testing a few formations, going from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 to especially a 4-4-2, and also mixing a few formations in the game. And that has some difficulties for Allegri to find really one perfect game lineup, and that was super difficult. And that's why he was actually looking for the most organized, the most structured lineup that was possible, and most of the time it was a 4-4-2. And that's why he changed a lot in the beginning of the season to actually cause the less damages and to have a solidity, not conceding that much goal as we were doing in the season with Sarri, Pirlo, and also in the beginning of this season.
Yeah, it's a common thing that you see amongst many managers when they take over a job. For example, if you look at Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea, get that defensive solidity down first, and then you can start thinking of building on the attack. And speaking of doing that, speaking of building and the attack, last May, Juve didn't just get rid of their manager in Pirlo, but their director of football left the club as well. Fabio Paratici had spent a total of 11 years with Juve before he left for Tottenham, and in his place, Federico Cherubini. I don't envy the man. Walking into the club when there was so much talk of them being in a terrible place financially, having to navigate losing Ronaldo right at the very end of your first transfer window, and having to make a snap decision on a signing, that being Moise Kean, to try to get them to the next window in one piece. But he also made some savvy moves when it comes to departures this winter. In my opinion, as someone who's a complete neutral, I support Benfica, as everyone knows. I think that Juventus had one of the best windows out of any of the European clubs in the top 5 leagues. And you look at, of course, Cherubini did some great business in getting rid of some assets that maybe weren't performing or weren't serving Juventus as well as they could anymore. But more importantly, the players that he brought in. So let's look at those guys. He brought in Zakaria, brought in Dusan Vlahovic, of course, and Gatti, I believe. But you loaned him back to Frosinone, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So Juve's midfield was an area that a lot of Juventini had been speaking about as an area that they wanted to see improvements upon. So What does Zakaria bring to this team? Is it just more depth, or is there something else that you saw from him in that game in Hellas Verona?
I saw a lot of things from him, and I'm super happy. Actually, to be honest, I think that he will have a better impact for the team as a whole than Vlahovic. Vlahovic is the top buy, of course. It's the player that you buy the shirt from, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
He will be really decisive in something that we were missing. We'll come back on Vlahovic in a second. But for me, the most important link will be Zakaria. Why? Because it's a player that can play as a number 6 if you are playing a 4-3-2-1 or whatever. He can also play as an 8, like he played a box-to-box position, like he played versus Verona. He's a player that reminds me a lot of Vieira, and I was super happy in his press conference when he said, if there is a player I inspire myself of, it is Patrick Vieira. But the Zakaria going to Vieira was really what we needed. Why? Because his presence will allow an idea that we saw in the beginning of the season from Allegri to play Locatelli also as a box-to-box more on the left side of the field. And due to the fact that we didn't have the man, because I told you we had some missing pieces in that possible beautiful puzzle, Locatelli had to do that number 6 because Arthur was injured and didn't recuperate enough, because when he was there, you couldn't play with a McKennie on the right side of the field because McKennie has the tend to go really up on the field. He has these beautiful offensive qualities where if he leaves up, Arthur is probably too much alone in that midfield, and he didn't prove something. So today, if you have a Zakaria playing in a 4-3-2-1 or 4-3-1-2, he will give you also the option to have Locatelli more on the left, Zakaria on the right, and Arthur as a number 6 with his qualities. And that's really beautiful. Two-man midfield, you can go with Zakaria and another one like Locatelli, for example.
You spoke of him, Vlahovic, the guy who's going to sell all of the jerseys, etc. He has that pedigree of being a Serie A goal scorer from what he did at Fiorentina. So besides Ronaldo, when was it? Hey, there it is. There it is.
Here we
Already. Had to jump on it, man. You had to. Besides Ronaldo, though, Beppe, when was the last time you were this excited to have this sort of killer in the box at Juve?
After Ronaldo, the one that excited me the most, of course, was Matthijs de Ligt, but it's a defender. You can't compare a defender with, the dreams of supporters that loves the goal machines, the one that will have really big scores on FIFA FUT. You can't compare, of course. I was super excited, not only because of the name, but because, I have my YouTube channel as well. And I was feeling the Juventini, the supporters, starting to go into a negative spiral, losing a bit of hope towards the future, asking me, Beppe, how long will we be in that negative position? Will it take like 3, 5, maybe even more years before Juventus can go back? Because we are reading everywhere that we are broke, that we don't have the money, we can't go for players. Now, we wanted Vlahovic in the beginning, it was possible, but now look at what he's doing, it will not possible anymore. So I believe that in terms of company, as a club, as a management, that were like putting the fist on the table saying, we are still there. And also because it's a really young player, 22 years old, just celebrated, that you see he's stepping in his first game. He doesn't feel the pressure. He knows immediately where he has to be on the field. Incredible. I think I had that feeling with a young Ibrahimovic coming from Ajax in terms of, what he could bring, a player that already showed something but was absolutely not at the top, that you saw like for 18 months being really great, and then Juventus is able to take him at a really young age. Well, I was super excited.
So with the defense sorted for the time being, the gaze turned to the attack. Tons of rumors of Dybala being unhappy that he hasn't been handed a new contract yet. Tons of rumors that Morata, the oftentimes misfiring Morata, unfortunately, was wanting a return to Spain. In essence, the future of Juve's attack was quite murky prior to Vlahovic signing. But against Hellas Verona, it seems as though we caught a glimpse of just how Allegri could set them up for success, with Vlahovic, Dybala, and Morata all on the pitch at the same time. Not just working, but thriving as well. In this sort of role, with this setup with Vlahovic central, Morata on the left, Dybala on the right, do you think that now it looks like Morata might have a future with Juve going forward?
Well, if we speak about Morata, yes. Speaking about Dybala, I don't believe he can do the role in a 4-3-3, in a really normal 4-3-3, being on the wing. He has that natural tendency to go to the right side of the field, absolutely. But he's more able, because we started with a 4-3-1-2, where he was supposed to be behind Morata, behind Vlahovic, where we saw on the heat maps and so on that it really went it on the right side of the field. Allegri changed them and they asked to play a 4-3-2-1, where Dybala had to be more a bit in the center, going up and down, and a bit less on the right side of the field. It's not a mystery that at the 61st minute of the game, Zakaria has all that freedom of space on the right side of the field to go up and to score, because Dybala was a bit more central. So if he's able to keep that central position, going on the right and then going more centrally, but not staying on the right, I think that for Dybala we have the best position that he can play, because he had that freedom playing with 3 midfielders. He's really able to stay up and he doesn't have to come back. But a player like Dybala, he lose all his clear vision and lucidity in front of goal if he's too much going up and down. If you look at the Morata, you can't expect for Morata to be the one that will score you 30 goals of season, that will be the killer in front of the goal. No, but you can have a Morata a bit a la MANDZU role that Allegri made. You know, that kind of fighter that goes up and down, sacrificing for the team, recuperating the ball, the first man that pressed the defenders, and also opening spaces for the main striker, that in that case is Vlahovic now. He can't deal a lot with too much pressure. It's a player that needs to be loved by his club, by his supporters, and also take away the pressure. And then you have a Morata that is doing really great. A lot of people were saying he was also MVP, even if he didn't score versus Verona, because of all his work rate and doing like that. He can do his work and then knows that, okay, there is someone that will finish the job up front. Really great for how we played. And I believe that we can see the 3 of them at one condition, and that has been said also by the coach. If they want to run for the team, if they want to sacrifice themselves, then we can have that. Why? Because we can't lose the balance that we need to find.
Overall, I like what I'm seeing from Juve, but I got to ask you this, Beppe, because it's not perfect yet. Of course, no one's going to claim that. Where do you think Juve has the most room to grow? Is it in defense? Is it in the midfield? Is it the attack? Where would you say they could really improve still this season?
If you speak about this season, I really believe that Juventus now need to work in a different way of managing the moments of the game. This is really important for our coach, that we are able to manage the different games. We are splitting the game in 6 times. So you have 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, then you have a break, then 15, 15, 15. This is how we see really football. A problem that we have this season is when we are managing the game, we are giving the ball to the opposition. It's not okay when a team like Verona, with all the respect, because they are really solid and they put a lot of teams in difficulty, but it's not normal that in your home a team like Verona has the possession of the game at the end of the 90 minutes. This is not okay. So I believe that we need to grow in managing some moments of the game, but still with the ball on your feet and not giving it to the opposition, because if you are able to score only 1 goal and you miss 2 other ones, it's still 1-0. And if you give them the ball for 15 minutes, the risk of them scoring versus you is really hard. And if you are not able then to recuperate the score and winning a last goal, you lost 2 points. And that's really something that Juventus has to learn, according to me.
Yeah, Beppe, man, I love talking to you. I really do. I want to thank you once again for taking the time on such short notice as well. I send you a DM, you say, let's do it in 10 minutes. I say, hang on, I need 20 minutes. So thank you once again, man. It's always such a pleasure speaking with you.
Same for me, Adrian. Always, always.
As we said a few times, this isn't the finished product for Juventus. They may not be ready, just yet at least, to go toe-to-toe with the other top sides in Europe at the moment. But considering where they were in September versus where they are now, the general vibe amongst the supporters and the results that we're seeing, Allegri's methods are starting to take hold, and the Juve of the future is far, far less murky. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, another big thank you to Giuseppe from Just Juve for coming by. He's a great guy. So if you support Juve, then go ahead and show him some love. Aside from that though, guys, that's it. Thanks for stopping by. My name's Adrian, and have a great weekend. Ciao.